Bayonetta 3 is in 3 fucking days, and this is everything you need to know before playing Bayonetta 3. And I even got someone from the cast of the franchise to help us out a little. Don't worry, I will summarize the crucial story points and questions that we've had from Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2. Yes, the villain. Yes, the possibility of the multiverse, the end chapter scene from Bayo 2, and what is up with that ending cinematic of Loki's Full card. But speaking of potential antagonists, just from the physical features themselves, you have the possibility of these being the higher gods, or at least puppets of the higher gods than that of Zaddy, Jubileus, Sheba, and Aesir. Aesir was probably afraid of these tier of gods so much that he needed to resort to taking the eyes of the world back to have at least a fighting chance, which is one of my favorite theories about him. Like, he wasn't just a megalomaniac, he was looking at the bigger picture for his universe. The glowing core, their wings, jetpack, I don't know, satellite dish, whatever it is behind them, the only difference is that the homunculi one is attached to a larger body, which makes me think that these ones are puppets to these higher gods. One thing that really made me a little sus was the red cracks that appeared within Whittingham Bayonetta. I know it looks like just the typical my soul is ripping apart type of trope, but with the combination of the crystallization upon her death, I think there is something much more deeper that is going on, so keep this in mind till the end. If you take away the wavy flames, you do see a humanoid feature. So again, it's either a human who's just insanely powerful that's been watching the events of the previous games, or literally the first being existence who made humanity in his image. So you have two of these figures so far. I could imagine if they are gods stronger than that of Jubi and Sheba, the third one would likely be yellow with a blue orb. In my previous video, I theorized that this was the left eye of darkness in its fullest form. So to put this theory simply, it would be cool to think that this left eye is a much bigger pool of energy, and he gave bits and pieces of it to other Aesirs in the multiverse. Just imagine if these gods oversee the multiverse, therefore there would likely be other Shebas, Jubis, and Omnis out there. So does that mean there is a light counterpart to this being that harbors the full right eye of the world? The next possibility is that the Singularity is a human who discovered the multiverse within the lore of Bayonetta. You might know the same trope that they did with He Who Remains in Loki of the MCU, shoutouts to you again Thunderstrange and Krillian, but in this case it's a person who's literally reached the pinnacle of intelligence of humanity and they turned themselves into knowledge itself, which takes upon this form. These types of origin stories remind me of Scarlett Johansson's Lucy, where she reached 100% of her brain power.
You unlocked 100% of your brain's power?
Yeah.
Oh my
exactly.
God, you're superhuman.
Yeah, I'm Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
But imagine if there was a human out there that probably even used Sigurd, but Sigurd didn't go any further. That's obviously more of a speculation than a theory. I personally think the higher being god possibility is more probable, but I came to this conclusion because, well, one, it's cool, and I had a similar theory with Mustafa Mond in Brave New World. You also have a sub-theory to this where these two are variants of each other, but born in different realms. Oh, sorry, different universes. One was born in darkness, while the other was a man-made weapon from the future. That's really stretching it, but we're all overthinkers here on this channel for the lore. But I'm going to be honest, if this one is the creator of all homunculi, I'm going to be pretty underwhelmed. I don't know if it's just the voice that doesn't emanate someone who you should be scared of, being the man behind the curtain and all. So again, I'm thinking these are puppets and there are beings pulling the strings from behind. This homunculi looks insanely more advanced and detailed than the ones that we initially saw, potentially being a higher rank or higher sphere than the one that was shown in the IGN preview, since this one is talking. Surrounding Popstar Bayo in this scene is what reminded me of the changing environments that Jubileus gave us, especially the icy terrain stage, but of course in this scene it's happening in real time. Moving on, Krillian absolutely smashed it with his diagram. He sent me his theory that these two could be the first witch and the first lumen sage, and you all know how much I love those statues and callbacks to the origins of magic. He remarked that both had respective clues to either the witch or sage, like the battle cries and the sun evidence pertaining to sages. We even discussed a little bit about this excerpt. The clans paid each other great respect, and their efforts to maintain the balance between them defended the just passage of time. We both thought, could the homunculi have been made off the record by the two clans as a safety measure? A safety measure for the Forbidden Child prophecy, or something completely different that we aren't even aware of? Regardless, Bayonetta 3 is the time when they finally act on that prophecy, where even Jean saw a glimpse of what was to come.
Be careful, Cereza. Something big is going to happen to our world.
Moving on, I've also theorized that this purple figure exists because of the end of Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2, which will help out my final theory on Bayonetta 3. The ending of Bayonetta 1 is the crucial point that could be the catalyst for the third installment. I even remarked in 2020 that the purple light could have been a slight foreshadowing or a just-in-case hint for the scenario connecting to what's going to happen in future games that the writers had planned. In this ending, our Bayonetta goes back in time to return Brave Cereza to her original point in time. In the developer's comment commentary all those years ago, this was confirmed to have been an alternate timeline that branched off from our main timeline. And to be honest, who knows how many more timelines there are out there. This is where the conundrum comes in. 1. Is Brave Cereza the witch that we've seen in the Bayonetta 3 trailers, and the Bayonetta that we know and love is somewhere still out there, who will come and save her towards the end of the game? Or 2. Is our Bayonetta the one in the Bayonetta 3 trailers all this time that we've seen, who just changed her hairstyle for this game and is the same one from after the events of Bayonetta 2, while Brave Cereza is somewhere still out there? The second option seems to be the case where this is the Bayonetta that we know and love, but there are a few continuity differences that could say that this is Brave Cereza who has grown up, the left eye being used, and the scar on Luca's face that is different from the scar in Bayonetta 2, which could indicate that this is a different timeline. So currently, it's up to you which one you want to believe until you play it, but the important fact is there is an alternate Brave Cereza confirmed somewhere out there, even if they don't explore that in Bayonetta 3. Speaking of which, there is another confirmed parallel timeline separate from the Brave timeline and the main timeline, which was the end chapter, and Kamiya did state its existence in a tweet years ago. In 2020, I theorized this to be the darkest timeline where that one Cereza dies, as well as the whole world going to shit. There are so many different things happening here, which is obviously due to the multiversal possibility of events playing out very differently. Probably the same time as when our Bayonetta went back in time due to Loki. Rosa is apparently alive, and we are versing a young Balder variant. Also, it seemed like that Cereza met young Balder for the first time rather than having met him in her own period. As for what happens after the scene where the young Balder variant reveals his right eye of light is unknown, and I hope they will show what happened here or afterwards in Bayonetta 3. So just to clarify, we have 3 confirmed separate timelines, and you know of course what Maddie and I are hoping for. Bayonetta 2's ending is an even bigger conundrum and mystery, but essentially upon defeating Lopter, it's then revealed to the player that young Balder was possessed by Lopter trying to escape to a different time, which he was partially successful, as that young Balder was sent to the past just after Rosa was killed, since the giant pin struck the Umbran statue. It's also important to know that after he was transported back to the past, young Balder does not have the eyes of the world since they were destroyed by Loki. This is supported as Balder in Bayonetta 1 only had the blue aura after Brave Cereza was returned to her original point in time. So he devised the plan to bring little Cereza to the future, become brave after meeting our Bayonetta, which then changes the course of events in her respective timeline when she is brought back, which somehow leads to Balder getting the right eye again. So essentially, it's like he used the butterfly effect to resurrect the right eye of light. And you see this strange, wobbly, glitchy effect that connected both timelines at this specific point in time.
で、世界の目としてね、資格を得た、時間軸のベヨネッタの力がですね、こちらの、現実のベヨにも
I like to think that someone above the likes of Aesir potentially crossed those timelines together to resurrect the right eye so that way all events could play out to lead to what is happening in Bayonetta 3. Or it's a simple you went back in time, then something in the future has to change, which is the right eye. Something like that. Moving on, that young Balder grows up to be the father Balder that we verse in the first game. So to the player, Bayonetta 1 and 2 are in a loop. And I believe that was intentional since it felt like Bayonetta 2 was going to be the last installment at the time. Like damn, imagine seeing this in 2014, thinking that was the last of her that you'll canonically see. While Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 2 can be played as a loop to the player, I personally think that Balder was not in an infinite loop. In Balder's perspective, it's witch hunts, then Bayo 2, then Bayo 1, then his death. So in his POV, he just lived longer in different periods, and then he dies. No loop. Moving forward, Loki, after using nothingness to destroy the eyes of the world, says to our Bayonetta,
"Sorry, love, but you still don't strike me as a Cereza."
Which I like to think as a foreshadowing of Brave Cereza returning in future games. After Loki disappears, it time skips to a few days where Bayonetta meets Doctor Strange.
I'm Dr. Stephen Strange. I need you to come with me. Fate of the universe is at stake.
Again?
But seriously, this leads to one of my favorite ending scenes, the Fool card, flying out from the baby's stroller. A lot of people saw this as Loki's reincarnation, but personally, I feel like if it is, it was a poor way to reveal it, in my opinion. If I were writing this, I saw this as just a kid playing with tarot cards, and what seemed to be like fate stepping in to show Bayonetta the Fool card, especially with the stroller being the same color as Loki's outfit. The Fool represents new beginnings, having faith in the future, being inexperienced, not knowing what to expect, having beginner's luck, improvisation, and believing in the universe. multiverse. At the time of when this was released in 2014, this could have meant as a final goodbye, since the player can now infinitely loop between the two games. But since the advent of the Bayonetta 3 teaser in 2017, I am praying to be a foreshadowing. My favorite theories about this are the Loki will return theory, and just recently could be the foreshadowing of events that are happening in Bayonetta 3 concocted by Lopter. Or the cherry on top, the one above Aesir that Aesir was scared of, who was also the one who connected both timelines at the end of Bayonetta 1. All the cards are falling into place. I promise you that was improv. I didn't intend that to be the pun of the century. In the IGN preview, they remarked that the homunculi had the ability to erase anything and everything from existence, which is eerily similar to Loki's power, nothingness. Could have someone modeled their research, or have successfully imitated the power of Loki and his trump card. I don't know. But maybe we should ask someone who's actually been in the Bayonetta franchise. Oh. Hi. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Are you in Australia?
Yeah, I'm from Sydney, Australia. It's so nice to meet you.
You too. And how do I say your name?
Oh, Rakun.
Rakun.
Yeah,
Perfect.
correct.
I'm Mark. To meet you.
Your smile just brightened up the whole of Australia, like.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Well, I would love to go to Australia. Are you kidding me?
Did you feel, I know it's been a very long time, but do you feel that Loki's character arc was finished at that time? Or do you believe personally like he deserves a redemption arc in the future?
Listen, let's always fight for redemption. Hashtag Team Loki, right?
Team Loki,
Why
let's
not?
go, you know?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I think in a universe as so special as Bayonetta, I think anything is possible. So I think never say never.
But the big question and my final theory for Bayonetta 3. What if there is a Cereza variant out there that was so distraught about her mother dying? A Cereza out there that was the complete opposite of Brave Cereza? Or could this be Brave Cereza hiding right in front of our eyes? The feminine laughter, the left eye. Could Brave Cereza had been too overempowered that she turned into an egotistical megalomaniac? Because we've never seen an update of her after that scene of fighting with Jean. That was the first thing shown to the player playing Bayonetta 1 in 2009. But realistically, and something I would love to hope, is that this is a completely new character who's been on the sidelines watching us all this time. I think that is equally, if not more, cooler. I'm afraid this might be the last Bayonetta 3 theory video, because the next one I hope will be Bayonetta 4 theories. Thank you all for everything these past 3 years. I'm Rakun, and never get disheartened.